This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hello, my fellow revolutionaries, and welcome to the Leadership Revolution. My name is Audrey Prosper. If this is your first time joining us, we want you to know that our vision is to help others discover clarity, embrace vulnerability, and experience freedom in their relationship with others and with God. I know that you're going to receive a word today that will bless you and the people around you. I want to invite you to be fully present when you're listening and judge later, because we actually can't do both at the same time. Now, I'd like to direct your attention to our host, David Prosper. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hi, my friend. My name is David, and I am your host of the Leadership Revolution. I get the privilege to serve you every other week as your guide. And if this is your first time listening, I want to say welcome to the revolution, my friend. And if you're hearing this and thinking, nah, this ain't for me, bro, I want to really encourage you today, because if you can influence someone's thinking or behavior, you, my friend, are a leader. And to the rest of our revolutionaries, thank y'all for being creators, trailblazers, and innovators, because our world needs more people like you all, especially in today's time. I have a story that I want to share with you. I want you to listen very closely. Back in 2009, I graduated from high school, and I was unsure which college I would actually attend. The decision came down to where was I going to play football and run track. So during that springtime of my senior year, I decided to attend a college athlete recruiting event day of recruiting. And this is where our coaches had sent every highlight reel for all the graduating seniors to the colleges that were interested in us. And what those coaches did from the colleges was review all the film and then see what athletes they liked. They made a list and they would connect with athletes at this event day. So there were 5 schools that were actually interested in me. And out of those 5 schools, I chose 2 schools. One of them I got denied. The other one I was accepted at St. Norbert College, greatest college of all time. And I remember the first day of football camp, I met guys from literally around the world, like people from Africa, Europe, Mexico, and other states. It was amazing because your boy grew up in the hood, and it was only us brothers and sisters, African American, Haitian American, we have some Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, but for the most part, it was just us, and you had some Caucasians here as well. But not from different places. Everybody there I grew up with was from Florida. So being exposed to diversity was truly amazing and life-changing. But I started asking myself this question: why did my coach decide to bring all of these athletes from around the world? Couldn't he just bring players from the state of Wisconsin or Florida? And the answer is yeah, he could have done exactly that. We have enough athletes here and there. But he knew that in order to win, he needed a diverse group of people. So that meant different talents, skill sets, strengths, and backgrounds. And today we're going to be discussing 3 things. 3 things, my friend. Number 1, how to prepare for relationships. Number 2, how to focus on others. And number 3, how to invest in others. We're going to focus on those 3 things. How to prepare for relationships, how to focus on others, and how to invest in others. So let's pray. Dear Dad, I want to thank you for the opportunity to use this gift of speech. Let my words be seeds of inspiration that awaken the places that you want to give people the opportunity to live their best life. I don't know who's going to be listening or who's listening right now, but I pray by the sound of my voice, health, healing, favor, provision, protection over them. I pray that they would have a receptive heart and an open mind. In Jesus' name I pray. A to the man. Y'all, we're talking about winning with people. And in order to win with people, we have to look at one of my favorite words, is synergy. And the Greek word of synergy breaks down to synguros, which means work together. So what does it look like? It's essentially mean, in other words, life is better when we do it together. Or you've probably heard this 1,000 times, and I'm assuming, team, together everyone achieves more. Continue to travel with me as we unpack this just a little bit more. Synergy is the foundation of revolutionary leadership and parenting, because the reason why it unifies and unleashes the greatest powers within each person, right? If you think about it, synergy is everywhere in nature. If you plant two plants close to each other, the roots are going to combine and it's going to improve the quality of the soil. That means both plants will grow better than they would have been separated. In one of my favorite verses, Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9 through 12, it says this in the Message translation. It's better to have a partner than go at it alone. Share the work, share the wealth, and if one falls down, the other helps. But if there's no one to help, tough. Two in bed keep each other warm. Alone you shiver all night. By yourself you're unprotected. With a friend you can face the worst. You can round up, and if you can round up a third, a three-stranded rope is not easily snapped. Wow. That's the Message translation. There's so much to it, just dissecting that one verse, right? Like, it is better to have a partner than go at it alone. And how many of us have this Lone Ranger mentality, like, I have to do this alone? No, God never intended that. And we can only win when we win with others, when we win with people. And if you look at any of the greats right now, we talk about Michael Jordan, we talk about LeBron James, right? Who's the greatest of all time. But if you look at all of these individuals, they have a team of people. Even if you look at Tiger Woods as a great golfer, he has a team of people around him. So it is important, it is vital in order to win, to achieve, and to be the best version of ourselves. We need to do it with others. So when we communicate in a language of synergy, we're simply opening our minds and heart and expression to new possibilities, new alternatives, and new options. Synergy is exciting. Creative energy is exciting. I don't know if you're excited, but I'm excited right now. So now we understand the importance of synergy and why it's important and what it does to a collective whole. Let's talk about how we can actually use it to win with people. But before we can learn about how to win with people, we must ask ourselves these three important questions. Number one, are we prepared for relationships? Number two, are we willing to focus on others? And number three, are we willing to invest in others? So again, are we prepared for relationships? Are we willing to focus on others? And are we willing to invest in others? So number one, are we prepared for relationships? This is where we determine how we see others. Our reflection of ourselves, our self-awareness and our self-acceptance determines how we see others. So it is vital to do a lot of self-reflection, self-awareness, and self-acceptance, because who we are dictates how we see others. Again, who we are dictates how we see others. So you might be saying, okay, I need an example. What are you talking about? So if there is somebody who is constantly seeing the positive in life, right? And you come to them with a situation that is negative, what are they likely going to do? What they're going to do is, hey, it could be worse. Hey, I know you made it out of this, right? They're going to constantly see the positive, even in your negative situation. Now let's flip that, right? So that was positive Patty. Now we meet negative Nancy, right? And you have a positive story. Something great's happened in your life. You're like, oh my God, I'm on top of the world. Everything is going well. Everything is awesome, right? And then you share it with them, and they're just like, but what about this? What about this? You know, what if they find out that you're not who you really are, right? So they'll see the negative in situations. So before we can prepare for relationships, we have to do self-inventory. That means reflecting, understanding who we are, accepting ourselves, and taking action and building accountability. And I truly believe that the compass in directing who we are is found in scriptures, from the beginning to the end. God calls us chosen, loved. We are his children. So once we understand our identity, that becomes a lens in how we see others. And I truly believe that the first relationship to examine is ourselves, right? And we can examine that just by, listening to our everyday conversation, being mindful of how we speak to others. Like, are we using words that are empowering ourselves or disempowering language, right? So if you might be asking, okay, what are empowering language, right? So it's the I can, I will, this is going to be my favorite. Anything that brings life to the situation is empowering language, right? Anything that takes away life from a situation is disempowering language, right? So if people who are in relationships, right, some disempowering language that people in relationship use, and I've been guilty of saying this in my relationship, you always do this, right? Always is an absolute. You always do this. And then whatever that negative characteristic or whatever that negative behavior or action is being reinforced. Versus saying, hey, I love when you do this. This is saying the opposite, getting what we actually want to achieve, right? Empowering language is using vocabulary and language that brings life to a situation. So somebody say, hey, today was a bad day. That's disempowering. Empowering would be, today was a challenging day. Disempowering language would be, I'm overwhelmed. Empowering language would essentially be, I'm being maximized and I'm being stretched for growth, right? So it's not just saying a whole bunch of words because we want to think everything is positive. And, there's people who deal with real life stuff, especially right now, what's going on with COVID-19. But it's a difference because words charge us up emotionally. And when we're charged up emotionally, we move in that motion. So the first person to examine in any relationship is ourselves. What kind of language are we using within our own life every single day? And then there's this thing that I truly believe, if we don't heal within, then we bleed on people who've never cut us. Because hurting people hurts people. But loving people love people. I'll say that again. Hurting people hurt people. But loving people love people. And I remember when I got to speak on this on the TEDx stage here in Colorado Springs. And I was talking about the place I grew up. My parents, they were hurting people. And as a result of that, they didn't do the self-reflection. They didn't do the self-acceptance. They didn't get healed. They didn't examine themselves. What they did as a result of that was hurt the people around them. And I think we all are guilty of that in one way or another. But I truly believe that we have to step out of that place by asking ourselves those questions. What place am I coming from? Am I using the vehicle of love or am I using the vehicle of hate? And even deeper than that, where's the source of it? Right? Where do I get the source of love? And I truly believe that's found in God. And then the opposite is found in our adversary. So in order to be willing and in order to prepare correctly for relationships, we have to ask ourselves, are we moving through the vehicle of love? Because if we're hurting, it's naturally for us to hurt other people. But if we've received love and we're experiencing love in our life, it's easier to love others around us. So examine yourselves, see whether you're operating in faith or in fear, in love or in hate, and test yourself, right? There's something about a test that shows you where you're at to measure where you can improve and what you're doing really well. And you can test yourself by being in situations where it requires you to respond in an emotional way. Or you can journal and then you can do some self-reflection and some investigation. And then that's another form of testing. Or you can ask people around you, hey, am I using empowering or disempowering language? And those things are going to help you to prepare yourself before relationships. And number 2, are you willing to focus on others? Boom, that sounds like a cuss word for some of y'all, right? Are we willing to focus on others? We live in the most self-centered era that's being magnified ever, because we've always been selfish as people. Now it just gets magnified with social media. So now, people in Iran can see people in America, etc., right? We have to ask ourselves this question: are we willing to focus on others? Because we're naturally selfish people, and we have to actively, intentionally step out of that side in order to serve others. Because there's a good book that I enjoy. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it comes from the Bible. People who are interested in people are interested in the person who's interested in them, right? So people are interested in the person who's interested in them. So what does this look like, right? You ever been out and about and then you see this person networking and everybody's gravitating around that person, and it just seemed like they're the life of the party. And the reason why oftentimes is that they're interested in the people around them. So other people become interested in them, and it becomes a trickle-down effect. So how can you actually become interested in someone else? Because it's easy to understand the concept and the theory of things, but what are the practical applications that you can do right now? I call this B3, right? B3, understanding their backgrounds, burdens, and battles. And their battles are, what do people love? What challenges them? What are their, what's in their way, right? So understanding their backgrounds is essentially, where did they grow up? Burdens are what's on their heart. Battles is like what they're struggling with. And I think it's important to understand what people are struggling with, because oftentimes we struggle in silence, and we think that we have to portray this perfect life in front of our peers when we're really not having that life. It's this illusion that things are all good, things are together. But when we understand what people are battling with and they're struggling, what happens, that struggle turns into a strength, because now they're sharing the weight, like we talked about in Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9 through 12 about having a partner and understanding their burdens. What motivates them? There's people who I've met that they're motivated by, and the burden on their hearts are foster kids. For me, is leadership and education. For others, is communities and tribes. For others, is it's immigration. It's social justice. Like what's on their heart. And I think that is important when we're focusing on others. Number two, as far as how we can actually focus more on others, is believing the best in people. Believing in the best in people usually brings out the best out of them, right? Focusing on their strengths, not their weakness. And I don't mean acting as if everything is perfect, that we're only talking about what's great, but catching them in those moments of their strength. Like, if somebody draws really well, like, yo, you dope, son. Like, you dope, girl, right? You doing your thing, right? You are good at this, versus like, I know you can draw, but can you do poetry, right? We tend to judge and evaluate people on their weaknesses versus their strength. And I think the shifting of focus should be on their strength, not their weakness. And love talks about the areas of growth. So don't get me wrong. Let's not talk about those things. But at the same time, too, talk about the good things. Talk about the strengths. Talk about the potential in them. See the best in them. Expect the best in them. And you will see the best in others. And I truly believe when we start speaking to people's purposes and not so much their problems, they step into that purpose and they don't reinforce the problems. I'll say that again. When we're focusing on people's purpose and not their problems, they step into that purpose. But when we're focusing on their problems and not their purpose, then they're reinforcing those problems in their lives. Number three, on how you can actually focus more on others, is simply as being curious and caring rather than confronting and condemning. I'll say that again. Being curious and caring rather than confronting and condemning. Curious simply means being open to discovering. Like, You're like, oh my God, what's going on here? And some people say nosy, I say curious, right? Is empowering language versus disempowering, right? As a kid, as a child, when they weren't out and about, they put everything in their mouth, they touch everything, they're curious, they have an open mind to discovering. And I think we should do that in more of our relationships. Be curious about the person. Like, where'd you come from? What was it like? What are your battles? What are your burdens? What's your background? And then caring. Caring simply means we show that person is valuable in our lives simply by saying, hey, you mean a lot to me. And then our action exemplifies what we've been trying to communicate. And then confront and condemning creates an island, right? No one likes to be confronted. No one likes to be condemned. And a lot of us have experienced church hurts. A lot of us has experienced emotional hurt, relational hurt, all of these things. And when we condemn each other, when we confront each other, not through the vehicle of love, what it does is creates more islands instead of bridges. Think about that. When we confront and condemn, it creates islands. But when we're curious and we care, it creates bridges to new relationships. So those are the 3 things on how we can start focusing on others. Last but not least, are we willing to invest in others? Those are the questions that we have to ask ourselves if we are going to win with people. Are we willing, number 3, are we willing to invest in others? Now, helping people grow becomes fulfilling to the point where when you see their potential manifested into reality, it becomes an inspiration. And the word inspire that's inside of inspiration actually means to breathe life. So think about it. When someone else is living out their reality and they're maximizing their purpose and potential, it becomes an inspiration. And then when the inspiration is, when we experience that inspiration, it breathes life. We get excited, it becomes joyful, and we are integrated into that experience. So are we willing to invest in others? Helping other people grow is actually fulfilling. So there's the good book talks about whatever we sow, we will reap. Now, Jesus is one of the, Jesus is the GOAT, right? He's the greatest leader of all time. He is the GOAT. And he truly believed in building up people. And building people is actually the job. There's a lot of leaders and there's a lot of people that feel that leadership is being elevated. But Jesus flips it on his head. Leadership is elevating others. And until we can elevate others and build others up, we're not really a leader. We're in a leadership position. We're not really a leader. And we find this in how Jesus did it in Matthew 29 verse 18. Jesus says, "Go out and train everyone you meet, far and near, in this way, making them baptize in the 3 names, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, baptizing them in all 3, and then instructing them in the practice of all I have commanded you." This is a Message translation. So he said, go and train everyone you meet. He talked about building people up. And that's how we can invest in others, by building them up. And the last point of how to invest in others is the true test of relationship is not how loyal we are when friends fail, but how ecstatic we are when they succeed. I'm going to say that one again. The true test of relationship is not how loyal we are when friends fail, but how ecstatic we are when they succeed. Whoo! Because comparison is the enemy of celebration and connection. I'll say that again. Comparison is the enemy of celebration and connection. We cannot compare ourselves to others when we're truly celebrating someone. And there's a stat that's out there that 80% of people don't care what's going on. 20% are glad it's happening to you. I truly believe it's like 80% don't care, and then about 15, are happy that it's happening. And there's a 5% of people who, are really concerned. So it's in order to get from that place to a place where we have celebration and connection, we have to stop comparing ourselves. It's hard, I know it, right? Social media, like, look at this person. I knew this person and their life is this way, right? Instead of, celebrating them, we compare ourselves. And I think everyone should be in their own lanes. Like my mom would always say, stay in your lane, boy, stay in your lane. So to all of us, we all have strengths. We all have burdens. We all have battles. No one's life is perfect. And when we understand that everyone has their challenges despite what we see on the surface, then we understand them at the human level. And then when we can understand them at the human level, we can start celebrating them. Because everyone's had their challenges, no matter what. No matter where they're at, people are always having challenges. So a true relationship is not how loyal you are when they don't do well. Anybody can be there when someone doesn't do well. But how ecstatic are you when that person around you actually succeed? So the 3 questions we should be asking ourselves in order to win with people are we prepared for relationships? And that means examining ourselves, our mind, what's going on in our world. Are we using empowering or disempowering words? Number 2, are we willing to focus on others? Are we curious? Are we caring instead of confronting and condemning? And number 3, are we willing to invest in others? Are we going to take the same approach that Jesus took, developing leaders? And leadership is not position, it's about purpose. Leadership is not being served, it's about serving others so that they grow and to become the leaders that God has created them to be. And I'm so grateful you all have tuned in. I appreciate it so much, and I pray that that this has been effective for you, or at least encouraging on how to actually win with people. Because life is not meant to be done alone. It's meant to be done in community, in tribes, and in herds. And just like my football coach who recruited players from around the world, because he knew how important it was to win with people. Now, I'm far from perfect, and I don't get it right every day. My family and the people in our organization can tell you that that's completely true. I'm far from perfect. But my pursuit is to build healthy relationships with the people around me. And I want that to be your challenge. That is my challenge to you all, right? Find one person that you can invest and speak to the best sides of them. Find one person you can invest in, that you're curious about, that you want to build a relationship with, and that you want to pour into them. So with that being said, let's close in prayer. Dear Dad, I want to thank you for what we got to hear today. Let it penetrate our hearts and our mind. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May He make His face shine upon you. May He be gracious towards you. May He give you strength when you're weak, hope when you're discouraged, faith to believe, and joy that is contagious, in Jesus' name. Thank you again so much for listening today. Come back every other Wednesday of each month for a new episode. I want you to remember something. If we as leaders are to set ourselves apart, we must start by leading through love, which always comes from the heart.
Thank you for listening today. We hope you are blessed. To share your leadership experience, you can text us directly at 414-552-9598. Again, 414-552-9598. And don't forget to subscribe to enjoy more messages just like this one. On behalf of Shepherd Revolution, we look forward to connecting with you every other Wednesday. Now go and revolutionize the way you lead.